Maura, looking ahead to Bemidji, where do you feel this team is at? How do you feel they progressed after three, incredibly tough series to start the regular season?
Yeah, looking forward to coming back home and playing Bemidji. We have a lot of history with that team, and I know some players have a little chip on their shoulders. Looking forward to getting back at the Beavers after last year's ending. Yeah, and I think we learned a lot about our team, about ourselves throughout the course of the first 3 weekends. We played some really good teams. I think we're a really good team too. If you've been to Laban, you know that's one tough place to win. They have I believe it's a 34-game win streak going there. So when we go down there, we know we have to play our best and bring it for 60 minutes each night. And I think we had lapses, and had we continued to play our game throughout the course of those games, results would have been a little different. I think we were in those games going into the third period each night. So that's something to take away from a team that I think is very good. Ranked number 2, could be number 1 any day now.
Could you maybe give us 3 weeks into the season now against 3 ridiculously, good opponents, maybe 3 takeaways that you've learned about this team so far now at this point in the season?
Absolutely.
3 things that may stand out to you.
Yep, I think our freshmen are good. I think they've come in and made an immediate impact on the team, from their ability to jump into games against the best competition in the country, score goals, stop goals from happening, create plays, and play at this level right away. That's been really encouraging. I think we have a lot of depth on our team. Secondly, we're very strong up front. We have 5 lines at practice plus some, and so in games we have the ability to play a lot of lines up front, which is great for us. And I think there were questions going into the season about our young D-core, and I think they've been an absolute shining point on our team. Led by Jalen, but following up with Lizzie, Maggie, and Kaylee Skinner. I think they play well above their age, and that's been awesome. Obviously, with Maddie back there, defensively, we're strong. So I think what's encouraging is that we played with all of those teams. We got some wins throughout the course of those 3 weeks, and moving forward, that's what we're going to build on.
Back if you had Jalen in the Minnesota series, might have been different.
Probably.
The defenseman specifically, we all knew what Jalen was obviously going to bring,
yep.
But the young defenseman, that your biggest surprise maybe so far, or did you know they were going to be this good?
Well, they're good coming in, but it's hard to say how good they're going to be when they get here. And those guys have been playing the most minutes of any freshman on the team, with some injuries back there and different things happening. Jalen and Lizzie and Maggie and Kaylee are playing, well over 30 minutes a game. So to ask a 17, 18-year-old to step into Division I hockey, play the best teams in the country, do that and do well, I think that's pretty great.
You mentioned the history with Bemidji over the past few years. How much is that series last year still on your team's mind?
Well, it's hard to say because this year is so different from last year, and we have so much energy and enthusiasm going in the positive direction. So to think back on last year and the way the season ended, I hope we're not spending too much time on that. But I think in a good way, we have some people in the locker room that want to make a statement this weekend, and we'll thrive off of that energy.
I know we're only 3 series in, but how have you seen the chemistry of these girls evolve over those 3 weeks?
Yeah, it's been really good. As mentioned, playing tough teams early can go one of 2 ways. I think it worked out well for us. By sweeping BC right off the bat, put us into the number 4 spot on those polls, and that brings confidence to our program and our team, and that allowed us to say, yeah, we have a good wagon here, and it's only going to get better. You head into the Gophers and Wisconsin weekends. Those are different. The WCHA matchups are just different than the non-conference ones, and I think there's so much history and so much knowledge between the teams on both sides. So many kids have played together in high school or national teams, and over again. It's a different deal, and I think playing those games early has taught us a lot about what it takes to win in this league and what the pace is like, because if you talk to some of our young players, they'll say this past weekend in Wisconsin was the fastest of the 3 weekends. The transition game was incredible. I thought the games were really, really entertaining, fun to watch, great hockey. So the future is bright for us.
Speaking of teams playing pretty hard competition, Bemidji also, what could you take away from their 2 series?
Yeah, I mean, they jumped right in with the reigning national champions, Clarkson, and went out to Providence last weekend. So they've had a tough schedule, and I'm sure they feel the same way that, you know, regardless of the results, they're gaining a team identity. And I'm sure when Jim put that schedule together, it wasn't in focusing on pairwise or things like that. It was more about team development. So I think they're going to be strong. We have no room to take our foot off the gas. They're always a good team. They match up well with us. Their style of play versus ours, it's physical, it's difficult to get at their goalie. We know what they bring, and I think it's going to be a good weekend.
You played 4 lines more than in the second Minnesota game. Did you continue that down in Madison?
We did not.
Did they play 3 or 4?
They played 4. Yeah.
One more recruiting.
Maura, Brick, a young assistant on your staff, a couple weeks now into the season. How do you feel she's adapted to her new role, new life?
Yeah, she's doing really well. It's awesome to have her back here at Amsoil with us. I think her perspective on things is so valuable to us as a staff. You know, when we sit around the office and talk about last weekend or the upcoming weekend, what she thinks about and what she sees is just, it's different than what I see, and it's different what Laura sees, and that's the benefit. And I think what she brings is that she has a very calm presence. Anyone that knows Brick knows she's pretty soft-spoken, but very intense too, especially on the ice. She's a winner. She wants to win, and she just wants to make this program as successful as it can be. So it's just been fantastic having her here.
Have they found a way to transplant that fire and that ability in the third period to lift the team to wins?
I think so. I think if you watch our style of play, I think we play with a lot of tenacity, a lot of aggressiveness, and a lot of belief. You know, no matter what time is on the clock or what the score says. And the more consistent we can be in our approach, regardless of scoreboard and time on ice and time on the clock and things like that, the better we're going to be. Because from series to series, things change, right?
When looking at the film on Bemidji, what do you think your team needs to emphasize on, you know, without giving too much away?
Against Bemidji,
yeah,
what do we need to do? I think our team speed is an asset, and that's something we've talked about from the get-go. I think that's something we want to showcase this weekend, and I want to make sure that we're using all of our tools in the offensive zone, you know, getting 4 or 5 players involved. I think that's always an asset. We could have done more of that against Wisconsin this weekend, and we'll look to do that against Bemidji.
Is there a lot of learning, especially with the younger girls, with you know, the first Wisconsin game, they come in the third period. I mean, what's the message about, you know, staying in games like that, especially?
Yeah, I think you know, surprisingly, they're pretty collected. You know, they're high energy, so I wouldn't say they're calm. They're high energy players, and they bring a lot of enthusiasm to our team, which is great because they don't have any history with any of these teams. They might know the players on the other team, but they've never won or lost at LeBon when you go into that first game. So I think that's incredibly valuable to have that perspective. And I think, you know, we're so positive about them, and their teammates are so encouraging. I think they're just thriving off of that. So they're able to stay in the moment. They're doing a good job with that, and we hope to see that continue. And I think that can be infectious with the rest of the team. It's, hey, this is a new season, and whatever happened in the past is in the past, and let's stay in the moment, because the moment's pretty good.
And the fact that they had to contribute and did
Yes.
is great for their confidence
Yeah.
right off the bat.
Absolutely. Puts an exclamation point on their belief, right?
You had mentioned earlier, it seems like Bemidji always seems to have a solid team. Anything about Jim and his coaching style or just these programs in recent years stand out to you?
Yeah, I think Jim's approach is great for their program. I think the men's and women's programs down there do an excellent job. I feel like they have the same sort of style. They're going to be really physical. They're going to be really tough. They're going to play solid defense, and when they get their offensive opportunities, they're going to run with them. But it's a defensive-oriented team, tough to get through. They keep everything to the outside. They're physical and they're smart. And I think it's a good game plan for those guys. They know exactly what's expected of them, and that's what makes them so good. And credit Jim and his staff for bringing that every single year.